Chaos erupts the moment she steps forward. A diamond bracelet clinks against the podium as the wealthy businessman's wife unleashes a storm of accusations, her voice sharp, her tone entitled, her anger volcanic. Judge Caprio lifts a calm hand, but she talks over him, insisting the law doesn't apply to people like her. The courtroom shifts, whispers, tension, disbelief. Her husband stands a few feet behind, eyes lowered, hiding something he desperately hopes no one uncovers. Then Judge Caprio notices one detail, a subtle contradiction that changes everything. The room freezes. The tension spikes. And suddenly, everyone silently wonders, what is he about to do? The courtroom is tense before she even speaks. A hush falls when her heels strike the floor, sharp, irritated, entitled. She reaches the podium like it's beneath her, tossing an angry glance at the officer as if he personally offended her existence. This entire thing is ridiculous, she snaps, loud enough for the back row. I shouldn't even be here. We were targeted. This city is a joke. And frankly, this court is wasting my time. Gasps ripple across the benches. A few people sit up straighter. The officer stiffens but remains still, hands clasped behind his back. Her husband steps forward, gently touching her elbow. Honey, maybe just. Don't, she hisses, jerking her arm away. You caused enough trouble already. The crack in their dynamic slices through the room like a blade, control on her side, quiet shame on his. Viewers would feel it instantly, the imbalance, the tension, the storm she carries like armor. Judge Caprio watches her with the stillness of a man who has seen every shade of human behavior. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't raise a hand. His silence presses heavier than any gavel could. She keeps going. You know what this is? Harassment. We donate more to the city in a month than some people make in a year. And this is how we're treated. Over a meaningless ticket? Over nothing. If your system had any competence. A whisper shoots across the room, she's digging her own grave. Another voice murmurs, someone needs to stop her. But the judge remains completely unmoved. His eyes narrow barely, subtly, when she repeats a phrase for the third time, we weren't even there. Something about her wording catches him. Something doesn't align. Her rant sharpens. And the officer didn't even listen. He's wrong. Completely wrong. We explained everything. Everything. But he had some agenda, I'm sure. Probably quotas. Probably trying to impress someone. She's unraveling now, her anger looping back on itself, louder, faster. The husband lowers his head. His shoulders sag under the invisible weight of truth he hasn't spoken yet. Judge Caprio leans forward just slightly, hands folded on the bench. The movement is small, but the room feels it. The shift. The anticipation. He finally speaks, his voice soft but cutting through the chaos like a steady beam of light. Ma'am, before we go any further, may I ask you one simple question? Her mouth clamped shut. The courtroom freezes. Viewers lean closer. For the first time, she looks unsure. Was she justified or completely out of line? Tell me in the comments. The silence after her meltdown is thick enough to feel. Judge Caprio lets it sit just long enough for the room to breathe again. Then, with the calm of a man who can see straight through chaos, he asks the question that instantly rewires the entire atmosphere. Ma'am, who received this violation, you or your husband? The shift is immediate. Her confidence flickers. Her lips part, but no words arrive. A murmur sweeps across the benches, quiet, curious, electric. Even the officer tilts his chin, sensing the narrative bending. She finally forces a laugh, brittle and defensive. We're a unit, Judge. A team. It doesn't matter who got it. We don't deal with these things personally. People like us. Judge Caprio's eyebrow lifts just enough to signal that answer won't hold. Her husband shifts, almost instinctively. His shoes scraped softly against the tile. His shoulders draw inward, a man trying to disappear inside his own suit. Viewers can see it, the crack in their united front widening by the second. "Let me ask again," Judge Caprio says, voice steady, patient, unshakable. "Who was actually issued the violation?" She hesitates longer this time. Too long. The room leans in, every breath synchronized, every pair of eyes locked on her. "Well, technically," she stumbles, then switches direction. "It shouldn't matter." The officer was rude. The whole situation was. "That wasn't the question," the judge replies, almost gently. Her eyes dart toward her husband, searching for support, permission, escape, anything. But he doesn't meet her gaze. He stares downward, jaw tight, guilt rolling off him like heat. Another whisper cuts through the quiet, "She's hiding something. She knows she's caught." Judge Caprio senses the unraveling. His voice softens further, but each word lands firmer than the last. "The truth is important here. Let's start there." Her defenses weaken. Her fingers clutch the edge of the podium. Her bravado drains, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty that hadn't existed moments earlier. Something deeper is brewing, something the audience can feel even if she won't admit it yet. And for the first time, she realizes the judge isn't dismantling her anger. He's dismantling her story. Pay attention to this moment, it's important later. The question still hangs in the air when the husband finally lifts his eyes. For the first time since they entered, he looks directly at Judge Caprio. There's exhaustion in his face, quiet, humble, and heavy, like a man who has carried too much for too long. He clears his throat. "Your Honor, the ticket was mine." The entire courtroom reacts at once. Gasps. A few heads snap toward the wife. Even the officer's expression shifts, subtle, but unmistakably there it is. The wife turns toward him, eyes blazing. "Why would you say that now?" she whispers harshly. "We agreed." "We didn't agree," he replies softly. "You insisted." Her jaw tightens. She steps closer, lowering her voice but failing to control the tremble underneath. "You're making this worse. Just let me handle it like I always do." He flinches, not from anger, but from the truth in her words. Judge Caprio raises a gentle hand, firm but calm. It freezes them both instantly. The subtle authority in that gesture silences the room more effectively than a gavel ever could. "Sir," the judge says, voice warm but piercing, "continue." The husband inhales deeply. His shoulders sag, releasing a weight he's carried all morning. "I was driving. We were rushing. We weren't exactly having a calm conversation at the time." A ripple of whispers moves through the benches. The wife snaps her glare toward the crowd. "It wasn't like that. They're exaggerating." But the husband keeps going, his words trembling with honesty. "We were late. I'd forgotten to send an important document for a client. She was angry. I was frustrated. We argued the whole drive. I didn't notice the sign." He pauses, voice cracking ever so slightly. "I just didn't notice." She presses her lips tightly, fighting the emotion rising in her chest, anger, shame, something deeper. Judge Caprio nods slowly, absorbing every detail. His expression is calm, thoughtful, like a surgeon dissecting a story with precision. "And why," he asks gently, "did your wife come to court in your place?" The husband hesitates, then answers with the kind of truth people avoid until the moment demands it. "Because she thought it would reflect badly on me. My business. My reputation. She always jumps in to protect me. Even when I don't ask." Her head snaps toward him again, but this time, something cracks, hurt mixing with indignation. "I was trying to help you," she mutters, voice trembling. "You always freeze in situations like this. I didn't want you embarrassed." "Embarrassed," he whispers. "Or controlled?" The question slices through the air. The audience reacts with a collective exhale, half gasp, half disbelief. Judge Caprio's eyes sharpen, but his tone remains gentle. "This is becoming clearer," he says. "Thank you for your honesty." The wife steps back from the podium, the confidence that once radiated from her now flickering like a candle in a draft. And for the first time, viewers can feel it, the power in the room has shifted. Tell me in the comments, should he have spoken up sooner? Judge Caprio lifts a hand, signaling the court officer. Let's bring up the report and the dashcam image. A quiet stir rolls through the courtroom. The wife folds her arms, rolling her eyes with practiced disdain. This is unnecessary, she mutters. We already explained. But her words trail off when the courtroom assistant dims the lights and the screen flickers to life. The dashcam image appears. Her confidence shatters in an instant. There, in crystal clarity, is the husband behind the wheel. His hands on the steering wheel. His face unmistakable. And faintly, just barely, the outline of her leaning toward him, mid-argument, caught in a moment neither of them expected would ever be replayed inside a courtroom. A collective murmur sweeps through the crowd. She said she wasn't there, but that's definitely her. They were arguing, look at that. The wife's breath catches. Her face pales, then tightens, then shifts into something between humiliation and panic. Her eyes dart around the room, searching for some escape that doesn't exist. Judge Caprio studies the footage with a stillness that feels like pressure. Soft. Heavy. Unavoidable. When the assistant stops the video, the judge turns his gaze toward her, calm, steady, unreadable. Ma'am, he says, you insisted this ticket was ridiculous and unfair. But this footage shows your husband driving, and the two of you in a rather heated moment. He pauses, letting the silence press its weight on her. Would you like to explain this? She opens her mouth, but the words come out fractured. Well, I mean, it wasn't, this is taken out of context. Her voice breaks. The confidence she wielded moments earlier collapses like thin glass. Her smile twitches into something forced, trembly, desperate. I didn't mean, I was only trying, I thought. Each attempt dies before it forms. The courtroom watches the unraveling with a mix of shock and uneasy fascination. Even her husband stays still, eyes lowered, as if bracing for an impact he can't deflect. Judge Caprio leans back, fingers interlaced, his expression thoughtful, almost gentle, but sharpened by truth. He lets the silence breathe. Stretch. Tighten. The whole room feels it, something is coming. A decision. A turning point. A moment she can't talk her way out of. And as the tension coils, he finally speaks. But what he says next will change everything. Pause here, what would you do if you were the judge? The courtroom is so quiet now that the hum of the lights feels louder than breath. The wife stands frozen at the podium, the dashcam image still echoing in everyone's mind. Judge Caprio leans forward slightly, calm, steady, almost gentle, but the energy shifts the moment he begins to speak. Ma'am, let's take this one step at a time. His tone is soft, but every word lands with surgical precision. You first claimed, he says, lifting a single finger, that you were not present during the violation. Her eyes twitch. She swallows. I misspoke. He raises a second finger. Then you stated you were in the car. A wave of murmurs drifts through the gallery. She forces a tight smile. I meant, well, it was complicated. A third finger. And you insisted your husband was not driving. Her husband shifts as if to speak, but Judge Caprio gently extends his palm, silent, authoritative, firm. The movement alone stops him. And yet, the judge nods toward the screen. The footage shows exactly the opposite. Her shoulders collapse half an inch. It's subtle, but the entire room sees it. The power she carried so confidently earlier evaporates with each contradiction laid bare. Judge Caprio continues, not unkindly, but unyielding. You said you were unfairly targeted. You said the officer was wrong. You said the violation had no basis. Each line grows lighter in tone, but heavier in impact. Tell me, he says softly, which version of your story would you like this court to accept? She blinks rapidly, too rapidly, her composure cracking like thin ice. I wasn't lying, she whispers. I was just trying to help. His voice doesn't rise. It doesn't harden. It simply tightens, like a moral cord being pulled into place. Help, or deflect responsibility? The question hits harder than any accusation. Her husband steps forward again, instinctively. Your Honor, she was just trying. The judge raises that calm hand once more. The room freezes. Sir, I appreciate your support, he says, but let her speak for herself. A hush drops like a curtain. The wife presses her trembling fingers against the podium. I didn't want him judged, she finally admits. I didn't want people thinking he couldn't handle things. I thought if I took control, it would be easier. But it wasn't, the judge replies, his voice almost empathetic. Because truth has a way of rising. Always. A ripple of agreement rolls through the courtroom. Her face softens. The arrogance dissolves, replaced by something human: fear, humility, truth. And the audience can feel it, she didn't just talk herself into trouble. She talked herself into honesty. Ever seen someone talk themselves into trouble? The wife's breath comes shallow now, the kind people take when the room feels suddenly too small. Moments ago, she commanded the space with fiery confidence. Now, her hands tremble against the podium, barely, but enough that even the farthest row can see the collapse beginning. Her voice, once sharp as a blade, softens into something fragile. I didn't mean to lie, she murmurs. I didn't want him to look bad. The courtroom stills. Not a cough. Not a whisper. Just the quiet unraveling of a woman who finally drops the shield she's held too tightly for too long. Judge Caprio's eyes warm. The stern edge evaporates, replaced by the practiced compassion of someone who understands human pressure better than most. He leans forward slightly, not to intimidate, but to meet her where she's falling. Tell me what you mean, he says softly. She exhales shakily. People expect things from us. Our image. Our reputation. He works so hard. He already has enough pressure. When things go wrong, I feel like it's my job to fix it. To protect him. To keep everything polished. Her eyes glisten, not with anger now, but with something far more honest: fear. I don't want people to think he can't handle things. Or that we're careless. Or that we're not as perfect as we look. A murmured reaction ripples through the crowd, less judgment now, more empathy. The transformation is unmistakable, this is no longer arrogance on display. It's a woman finally speaking from a place she's avoided. Her husband's face softens too. Shame and love mix behind his eyes. Judge Caprio nods slowly. Ma'am, protecting someone you love isn't wrong, he says. But protecting them with falsehoods does more harm than good. Honesty is messy. But it's real. And real is always stronger than perfect. Her shoulders shake. A tear slips down, not dramatic, not loud, quiet enough that only the front rows see. But it's enough to shift the room's emotional temperature completely. She whispers, I'm sorry. I thought I was helping. I didn't realize. I was making everything worse. The judge's voice turns almost fatherly. Owning the truth, he says, is never weakness. It's courage. A soft exhale moves through the courtroom, as if everyone collectively releases the tension they've been holding. And for the first time, she looks less like someone trying to win and more like someone finally ready to be understood. Have you ever said something out of fear, not anger? The emotional quiet in the courtroom feels fragile, like glass that could shatter with one breath. The wife wipes the last tear from her cheek, steadying herself. Judge Caprio gives her a moment, letting the silence settle gently. But then her husband lifts his head. There's something different in his eyes: guilt, fear, and a decision he's been avoiding. He clears his throat, and the room instinctively tightens again. Your Honor, there's something else I need to say. The wife turns to him, confused. The judge leans back just slightly, inviting the truth to surface. He inhales. Deep. Heavy. I asked her to cover for me. The words land with the force of a dropped stone. Gasps ripple across the benches. The wife's eyes widen, stunned and instantly wounded. Even the officer shifts his stance, eyebrows rising. "You asked me," she whispers, disbelief cracking through her voice. "You told me you needed me to protect you." He nods, shame burning across his features. "I did. Because I was scared. And I shouldn't have been." The judge's eyes soften, but the weight of his presence remains solid. "Scared of what?" The husband swallows. "Of losing a major contract. A big one. If word got out that I got a violation, something so careless it could have ruined the deal. They already question everything. Every move. Every detail." His voice breaks. "I was terrified." The wife stares at him as if parts of their marriage have just rearranged themselves in front of her. "So, all this time, you let me take the blame? The anger? The embarrassment?" He closes his eyes. "I didn't want to. But I didn't know what else to do." "And you didn't tell me?" Her voice is sharper now, not cruel, but painfully honest. "You let me walk in here ready to fight the world for you." Another wave of quiet spreads across the courtroom. The judge watches the two of them with the calm of a man who has seen countless truths finally rise to the surface. "Ma'am," he says gently, "you weren't carrying this alone out of arrogance, you were carrying a weight he placed on you out of fear." She looks down, breath trembling. The husband steps closer, voice low. "I'm sorry. I should have handled it myself. I should have trusted us enough to be honest." Judge Caprio nods slowly. "Fear makes people hide. Love makes people protect. But honesty, that's what makes people grow." The couple stand there, the raw truth hanging between them, painful, revealing, necessary. The moral landscape of the courtroom shifts once again, deeper than before. Not guilt. Not blame. But two people confronting the very pressure that nearly broke them. Would you reveal a secret like this in court? The courtroom holds its breath as both husband and wife fall silent, their confessions lingering in the space between them like hanging fog. Judge Caprio leans back slowly, fingertips pressed together, his eyes traveling between the two, soft, thoughtful, impossibly calm. He doesn't rush. He lets the moment settle. He lets the truth breathe. Everyone in the room braces for it, the fine, the lecture, the stern reprimand. But when he finally speaks, his voice is unexpectedly gentle. "You know," he begins, "in this courtroom, I've seen people try to hide the truth, avoid responsibility, argue their way out of simple facts." He pauses, letting the weight land softly. "But what I see here today isn't dishonesty. It's fear. Pressure. Two people trying to protect each other in all the wrong ways." The wife wipes her eyes. The husband bows his head. A few sniffles echo from the gallery. Judge Caprio continues, steady as a lighthouse in a storm. "Ma'am, you took on a burden that was never yours alone. Sir, you hid behind her strength because you feared appearing weak." His tone deepens. "But marriage isn't built on hiding. Or shielding. Or pretending. It's built on honesty, even when honesty is messy." They both look up at him now, vulnerable, stripped of every performance they arrived with. Then he delivers the surprise no one expects. "I am dismissing the ticket." A wave of stunned silence washes over the room. A few mouths drop open. Even the officer blinks in surprise. But Caprio isn't finished. "However," he adds, voice warm but firm, "I will only dismiss it on one condition." The couple leans in unconsciously, breath tangled with anticipation. "You both must admit responsibility, not for the violation, but for how you treat each other. Accountability isn't about punishment. It's about truth. And the truth is, you both let fear speak louder than love." The wife's face crumples with emotion. The husband takes her hand, gently at first, then with the certainty of someone who's finally learned how. She whispers, "I'm sorry." He whispers back, "So am I." A tear rolls down her cheek, but this one is different, soft, released, healing. Judge Caprio nods approvingly. "Good. That's the real verdict today." Honesty wins. Pride loses. And maybe, just maybe, this moment makes you stronger than the image you worked so hard to protect. Soft applause breaks out, hesitant at first, then spreading through the room like warmth. People smile. A few shake their heads with admiration. Someone murmurs, "Only Caprio." The judge cracks the faintest smile. Case dismissed. Take care of each other. As the couple steps back, hand in hand, relief flows through the courtroom like a final exhale. A man in the back whispers, "That's justice." Another replies, "That's compassion." And for the viewers watching, the question lingers gently. Would you have made the same decision? If you believe truth matters more than appearances, you know what to do. The doors to the courtroom swing open with a soft creak, and the couple steps into the hallway, not with the stiff tension they carried on the way in, but with a gentler, almost humbled quiet. The wife exhales like she's releasing years of pressure, her shoulders finally lowering from the weight she didn't realize she'd been carrying. Her face, once tight with indignation, now holds something lighter. Softer. Human. Whispers follow them, but not the sharp, judgmental ones she feared. They handled that well. That was brave of them. Caprio changed something today. She hears the murmurs and doesn't shrink. For the first time, she doesn't feel the need to defend, to posture, to protect a fragile image. The truth already did that for her. The husband walks beside her, not behind, not shielded, not silent. His steps match hers, steady and open, as if the confession lifted something heavy from his chest. He glances at her with a sincerity that wasn't visible before, and she returns the look with a quiet, grateful nod. Inside the courtroom, Judge Caprio watches through the open doorway, hands folded, a warm smile touching his eyes. It's not a hopeful smile, it's a knowing one. He can see it in the way they walk, something shifted. Not dramatically, not magically, but meaningfully. The kind of shift that grows with time. The courtroom slowly disperses around him, but the moment lingers like the final note of a song, gentle, resonant, earned. What remains is the echo of the message he delivered, truth over image. Honesty over fear. Compassion over pride. As the couple disappears down the hallway, their silhouettes side by side, viewers can feel the story settling into its final shape, not a legal victory, but a human one. A reminder that sometimes the biggest turning points come not from punishment, but from understanding. And now the question turns to you, what did this story teach you?